Welcome back to the Spectre Creative Channel with me, your host, Scott ToyGuru Neitlich. Reflections on being a professional toy maker. And, well, what I specifically want to talk about this episode is what I would call breaking the wheel. And no, not the medieval torture that's called breaking the wheel, because that has nothing to do with toys. It's the fact that the toy industry is different from a lot of industries. It is unique, not just in the sense that it's creating product for children, well, and adult collectors, but unlike almost any other industry, the toy industry constantly needs to innovate. And, I don't mean, every couple years or they have to rethink trends or, suddenly involve screens or apps or streaming. No, the toy industry innovates like every 3 months or every 6 months. It's under this constant pressure to change everything. And I can tell you from working in the toy industry for over 20 years, it tends to feel a lot like Groundhog's Day, where every day you're basically asked to completely rethink everything, think outside the box, invent something new, be the most creative you can ever be to come up with the world's greatest brand new toy that's never been discovered in the history of ever. And while this is a good idea in theory, communism worked in theory, it tends to be a little, well, feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, like you're going to invent the world's greatest toy. Looking at other industries, look at toothpaste, right? Over the past 50 years, we've had toothpaste, but has it really changed that much? Sure, we've had, different versions of it and, different flavors, but by and by, I wouldn't say toothpaste has innovated constantly and completely reinvented itself every single time. And I'm not just picking on toothpaste. Look at things like macaroni and cheese dinner. Again, there's been some changes in mac and cheese over the years, and it's changed shape or changed how you make it, but it's basically the same thing. It hasn't fundamentally changed. And the toy industry is different because with the toy industry, there's this constant pressure to completely change everything, to almost abandon every toy that's ever been made and reinvent. And it could be as simple as a packaging refresh, taking an existing toy line and putting it out in a different color in the following year. And saying, hey, it worked last year in this color, let's put it out next year in a different color. And again, while in theory it feels like that should work, it winds up just putting out the same stuff. So every year, every single toy company, from the big ones to the small ones, are constantly looking at new toy inventors. They're constantly challenging their design and marketing staff to dig deep and figure out what can be the next one-hit wonder. What can be something huge for 1 or 2 seasons and then go away? We'll never see it again. Maybe it'll come back in 30 years as a commemorative line. But all we want to do is be that hot gift for next holiday season, and we're out. As long as we were recognized as new and fresh and innovative and on trend, and whatever that trend happens to be, 2 years ago it was slime, so let's make slime toys. And now we're done with that, and we're moving on to the next play pattern. Well, it feels like going in circles. It really feels like going in circles because every single year, the entire toy industry is constantly trying to reinvent itself. Look at, games that have lasted for centuries, like chess, right? Yes, it used to be called, Chararunga, and it had 4 different armies originally in India, but for the most part, over the last 1,000 years, it hasn't changed. The biggest innovation in chess might be chess boards that make it slightly easier to play with instructions on the actual pieces. But beyond that, chess has not changed in like 2,000 years, and it is constantly the best-selling game in the world. It doesn't need to be reinvented. There have been attempts to introduce new pieces, but it never works. People want chess the way they want chess. And the more you look back at modern toys, modern meaning the last 300 years, because toys were around in ancient times too. You can look at any, ancient Roman or ancient Greek book and see what they played with. Toys have not from a 100-foot view, if you look at them, they haven't really changed as much as the toy industry is kind of feeling like it is. I mean, some toys like the bubble mower haven't changed at all in like 40 years. And this is a rare exception. But there's a reason for this. I mean, the bubble mower, as an example, is meant for a toddler, and toddlers all, for the most part, play the same world. They play to discover the world, to understand it. And whenever toy companies try to innovate, examples being like Aptivity, which attempted to merge toys with screens, or Forces of Destiny, which attempted to take a boy's property and turn it into a girl's property sold in the boys' aisle. Things like this, the reason they don't work is because they're just being done for either publicity, like the different Barbie body size, which, again, great, in concept, but it's not the way kids play. And of course, you're always going to have new IP, like, Baby Sharks or whatever the latest cool movie that comes out. But those toys, the new IP just tends to take on the form factor of classic toys. You can make Jack in the Box or blocks with Baby Shark just as much as you can with a clown face. And as kids go more and more on screens and are replacing playtime with screen time, well, the toy companies feel like, again, that's a challenge and we need to solve that. But really, this solve is with the parents. Parents just need to get their kids off screens and get them playing and socializing and stop using screens as babysitters. The answer is not creating more tech and toys that use more computers because, again, children have been playing for thousands and thousands of years. And you don't need technology and screens and electronics to have fun. In fact, some of the best toys ever have been produced advertising that they don't take batteries and that they're completely imagination based. And while lights and sounds are great when used appropriately, the best toys don't need batteries. They really don't. Play is play. If you look at the best-selling toys of this year, of 2020, as advertised by Amazon, well, there are some electronics involved, minimal, but they're not tech toys, if you will. I mean, you basically have planes, dolls, aliens, alien baby doll, and artboard. I mean, that's pretty basic, and that should be very telling. So the question then is, if these are the best-selling toys, why are toy companies constantly trying to innovate every single year? And there's a few reasons for that. One, toy companies feel that if they rest on their laurels and make what sells the best, then the competition is going to come and, cut out from under them, and they're going to innovate. So if you don't innovate, your competition will. And ooh, this calls for a spreadsheet. Yes, a spreadsheet will solve everything. It will tell us what sold well last year, and we can use that to sell well this year. And yeah, I guess it's great to organize data in a spreadsheet, but when you start making toys and designing characters based on this, that's when you sort of hit a wall. The other big reason is what's called the 80-20 rule. And while it has, one definition in the business world, the way it really works in the toy world is that it's actually the reverse. 20% of the SKUs produced by a company do about 80% of the sales. So why are we not focusing more on that 20% of SKUs versus constantly putting out more and more? As an example, Hot Wheels Basic Cars counts for a huge amount of Hot Wheels sales. But there are 80% of Hot Wheels SKUs out there that are reinvented every year trying to make up the additional percentage, which is just 20%. And a big reason for this is the retail planogram. The retail planogram is based on price points, with lower priced items at top, higher priced items at bottom. So toy companies are designing toys not around play, but around price points. They're actually designing toys to meet a specific price point, not to meet a specific play pattern or a way a child plays or a collector collects. Instead, it's we need a $3.99 toy, a $10.99 toy, a $19.99 toy, and a $59.99 toy. Okay, designers, go. Design to those price points. And that's fundamentally one of the issues. If you look 50 years ago, or currently today in mom and pop toy stores, there are no planograms. Toys are just hung wherever they can fit, and it often looks very appeasing to the eye this way because it's a experience for children. And in 2020, we've actually seen some of the highest toy sales in years, if not decades. 2020, the year we were all supposed to be, stuck at home, well, the reason toy sales are so well is because people didn't go to Disneyland. And I mean, yes, it's partially because Disneyland is closed, but they also didn't go out to dinners or fancy restaurants or take expensive trips because of, the whole COVID-19 thing closing down the travel industry. So because so much was closed down, the revenue that people had that they might allocate to a family vacation, and yes, I know there was a large chunk of people that have been out of work, and it's really terrible that the health scare and the COVID-19, the pandemic, put people out of work. But it didn't put everyone out of work, and even those people who were scraping by still want to make their children happy. So you're really exchanging going on trips and out to eat luxury items for the whole family, a family vacation, because you can't take that. Instead, you're putting that into giving your children an amazing holiday season. That look on a child's face when they unwrap a new toy is priceless. It's one of the best parts about being a parent, seeing a child's face just explode when they unwrap a gift. So all of this, the revenue, the family funds that might go to that are now going to ensuring a good Christmas. The other issue is the turnover in the toy industry. And I'm not just talking about layoffs. What I'm also talking about is how people in the toy industry are constantly moving chairs. They move off brands between 1 and 2 years, so they're not really there long enough to see an item get to shelf. And yes, there are layoffs, and we've seen that especially, this year, even with the toy industry doing so well, the large companies are still in the midst of massive layoffs of a lot of their workers, which includes, all of these designers. And all of this kind of adds up to the people that are at the toy companies want to be basically the hero to save the day. And innovation is seen as the path to doing this. If you can be the toy inventor, the designer, the marketer, the package designer who figured out the next huge breakthrough, like Garrett Sanders here, who created Monster High at Mattel. If you can be that person, then, you get the bonus and you get all the praise and you get, publicity and maybe you get interviewed and, that kind of thing. So everyone wants to be that latest inventor, but they're not necessarily doing it to get children to play. They're doing it because the company wants them to innovate. Their focus is not on getting kids to be happy and the collectors to feel satisfied, but to this pressure to constantly innovate, to create that one-hit wonder for the holiday season that can then go away and do it all over again the following year. And that's kind of the difficulty. It's when you're working with a spreadsheet and the spreadsheet tells you, okay, innovate and create a product that's going to be the new giant toy for this holiday season, and then it can go away and we'll never see it again. Well, that's not a healthy way to continue to develop toys. And at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is not designing toys because you need to innovate and you're constantly being sort of nudged and asked to innovate, but designing toys based on how children play. And what I have found is not enough time is taken to really understanding how children interact and play with toys, and likewise even how collectors collect toys. Unless you're an adult collector yourself or a parent of children, it's hard to see a lot of this. And you really need to find toy makers that are basically kids at heart. And that's not something everyone can do. Most people who are in the toy industry are making consumer goods. But if you look at the way toys have been for the last, 200 years, have they really changed? The ones that are the best sellers, the ones that are constantly around, it's because of the same play pattern. Children play with balls and dolls and rocking horses the same way they did 200 years ago. They don't need electronics. They don't need innovation because these things are basically playing up play patterns, ways children actually interact with toys. And when you do this, you will make more money as a toy company, because creating toys based on play patterns, and that includes adult collectors who their play pattern is acquisition, you make happier consumers because you're selling more toys because the product is making more consumers happy. And that's the way to make better toys, is to focus on what children and collectors want from their toys. I hope this clarified. I hope this was an insightful insight into the toy industry. If you'd like more videos like this, do subscribe and give it a thumbs up, because that helps tell YouTube to share it with other people. Thanks for watching.